let me go through these slides. Can we get to the first slide? Who's in charge of slides? There we go. Good. Good. Okay, so very quickly, the timeline that we're on for the budget, you can see May 1st is when I have to have it to the county council, and they do their magic with it and have hearings as well out in the communities. I believe 2, right? Out in the communities, and then you go down to the county go down to Arundel Center and tell them what you think as well. But during the month of March, which we're almost in, my job is I'm going to be going to each of the districts, but that's in the evening. In the daytime, I'm going to be meeting with each of the department heads who's going to be coming in, and they're going to have last year's budget, and then we have the adjustments to last year's budget of things that they're pretty much obligated to do in order to meet either their contracts with their employees, with cost of living increases, or just basic inflation to run their existing programs. And then they come in, some of them, with supplemental requests to do something a little bit more than what they've done. Some of them may actually have made decisions that they want to get rid of some of what they've done. So we look at those changes during the month of March. By April, hopefully, we've got a good idea of the direction that we're heading, and we start putting it all together into a budget. And we have a really great budget team that works also on the 4th floor of the Arundel Center that I started meeting with in the first week of coming into office. And a guy named John Hammond, who will be retiring, he's still on contract helping out, has a lot of historical knowledge, and he's been very useful in that. So the next slide is just where our revenue comes from. As you can see, the big chunks, property tax is 44%, income tax is 33%, and all the other stuff is small. So we can do things that are small, like raise impact fees on new development and change the recordation taxes and things like that, and we can have some impact. The big ones are income and property tax. And the income tax is often called the piggyback on your state income tax. So when you get the bill, you've got, in Anne Arundel, you got 2.5% on top of the state tax, and then of course you have your federal income tax as well. And then expenditures. Big blue, next slide. Big blue chunk is education, K through 12 education, 51.5%. And the next biggest chunk is public safety. So that includes not just police, but also fire and detention. And then government in general, which is most of the other departments, all the departments, is 12%. And then we have things like debt service, where we're paying back what we need to on our capital improvements, and others that you can see there. Next slide, Board of Education. If you're following the news, you may have heard that the superintendent came out with a budget request that was much larger than last year. It was about $73 million more than last year. It included trying to catch up on increasing class sizes, where we've had not enough teachers with the fast growth of our student population. And so they say we're about 400 teachers short. So they're trying to catch up by hiring more teachers. They're trying to give raises to teachers and do some back step increases that they didn't get from previous contracts during the recession, and get our teachers to the level of neighboring counties. And that's expensive stuff. And not only did the superintendent come up with $73 million, but the school board just a couple nights ago added another $19 million onto that. So there's a big request for education this year. Yeah, we have the other parts of education, which are debt service, school health, and school safety, which is police. Debt service is paying back on the capital improvements to build new schools, which is necessary because we've been growing. And we could get into growth, and I think it's very important to understand as we go through all this budget process that what we're facing as a county right now is that we have grown a lot. We've grown about 1% a year. So between 2000 and 2016, we grew exactly 16% in population. And then the student population grows faster than that. And then if you look at some of the departments, fire and EMS, the call volume has actually increased by 5% a year. So that's a 50% increase in the workload in 10 years because of the growth. So keep that in mind as we look at all this. Fiscal 2020 expectations. This was the come to Jesus moment for me when we met with the budget folks the first week. They told us what I already knew, and what I talked about during the campaign was that Seems like in this good economy, every year we're increasing revenues to the county from property tax, income tax mostly, by about $50 million a year. And that's still hopefully the case, although I just was notified today that income tax revenues weren't quite what they'd hoped. It may be not quite up to where they thought, so somewhere in the 40s. But then there are expenditures that we're required to do, like debt service, which grows as we borrow more money. We've got these 30-year bonds that we're paying back now. Maintenance of effort on schools, and then of course we have our pensions, health care for our employees, and some labor contracts where we're paying for the second half because the first half of the raise was the second half of the year. We've got some obligations that add up to about $10 million less than what we're increasing in revenue. So I'm told that we have about $10 million to play with. A lot less than $73 million if you do the math. The next slide is these are just a sampling of things that cost money, and the reason that we've got this up here is if you saw online or you saw in the newspapers, we made an announcement yesterday that our IT department pulled off a miracle. I said that we needed to have a budget tool where you could go in and create your own county budget and pretend you're me and put in things that you want, take things out, increase revenue, decrease revenue, whatever you want to do. So there's a tool online where you can do that, and these are some of the little parts of the tool that you can play with. You can have fun doing that before you testify. You can tell us exactly how you're going to pay for what you want. The next slide is some of the infrastructure costs as well. Things like $150 million for a high school, $100 million for a middle school, and $50 million for a elementary school. I thought that was an interesting number. Fire engines cost $650,000. Nothing seems to be cheap. Farm boy in his duck boot was kind of like eyes popping out of head when I started to see some of those numbers. And then we compared the county to other counties. We got a report recently. You get a report every year from the state on tax effort, they call it, where they compare all the counties in the state of Maryland, and they use some of that to decide how much how much aid to give to each county based on whether or not you're taxing at a rate where they think that you're making an effort, particularly on education. That's important. So on the property tax side, you can see we're in the yellow. We're at 90 or 0.902. Cents, 90 cents, 0.2 per $1,000 of assessed value. So that puts us, we're on the low end for the state. That really tall one is Baltimore City, which charges about twice what everybody else does. But the others are in the Central Maryland counties are mostly $1 and a little over $1 per thousand. So we're fifth lowest in the state. And then property tax history, the next slide. I thought was interesting. Everybody's probably heard of the revenue cap, where as our tax base grows, we don't get the money from all of that growth. We do get the money from the new development, but we have a homestead credit so that if you live in your house, your tax assessment can't go up more than 2% in a year. So if the market is booming and it goes up 10%, you don't get that 10% jump all of a sudden. But we also have an overall revenue cap that was passed by the voters in 1992. And so we went back to 1990 and showed the trend. Our tax rate in 1990 was just over $1, which was like a lot of the Central Maryland counties, or a little bit less. And then the rate actually gets pushed down when our tax base grows, because we're not allowed to collect more than X amount of money. And X amount of money is we're not allowed to go up more than the rate of inflation, or 4.5%, or is it 4%? 4.5%. So usually the rate of inflation is less than 4.5%. So basically, we're not allowed to go up in property tax revenues more than the rate of inflation. If our tax base grows more than that, that pushes the rate down, if that makes sense. That's the reason you see the changes in the rate. Actually, this doesn't have, there were only 4 years. Oh, it's the next slide, okay. The 4 circled years were years where every other year we did a property tax rate that was the maximum allowed by the revenue cap. Those 4 circled years, we went below the maximum amount. They all happened to be election years, but that kind of goes with us. And so if you go back, we went from $1. Right now we're at 90 cents. The difference between those two is in 1 year. If this year we were at $1, it would be about a $73 million revenue to the county, which is about what the superintendent of schools asked for. So we're talking big money. Income tax comparisons by county. We are third lowest in the state at 2.5%. The maximum allowed by state law is 3.2%. So we have some counties at 3.2. We have others that are in between. I think the lowest is Wacomico? No, Worcester. I can't even read that small. Okay, Worcester County. So the rural counties tend to tax less. They don't have as many government services, and those of us who live in South County kind of feel like we should be taxed less because we don't have as much government services, but I won't get into that. Sort of the good old-fashioned way of doing things. But, the more urbanized and suburban you become, the more services you need, and all of that costs money. So the last slide is simply, I guess, an advertisement for to go to the website or to go on your smartphones right now, look at your budget tool, and you can play around with the budget, and I hope you do. But don't count on us doing exactly what you say when you play around with the budget, because there's a lot of detail that's not in the budget tool. So I just want to reiterate what Jessica said. Councilwoman Hare. Is it? I think Annapolis now calls it councilwoman, don't they? Officially, yeah. Alderwoman, sorry. Want to reiterate what she said, though, about listening, that this really is about hearing what people have to say, because in my position anyway, it's easy to get pulled away from your roots and listen to the bureaucrats, I like to call them. Sometimes they don't like being called that. But the department heads who naturally want more revenue to do more so they can do better work. And, I've found that they all do want to do good work, and they're all trying to serve the community. But I also need to be listening at the same time to the people in the communities who sometimes have better ideas than the bureaucrats, certainly know what the priorities should be, and also are the folks who are paying for everything. So that's why we're here, and I think Chris is gonna lead us through. Is going to moderate.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Yes, we told him that he didn't want to be the moderator because he doesn't want to be the bad guy that cuts people off when their time is up. So that's my job. And thank you to those who have signed up. I have a list, and what we're going to do is call out about 4 names at a time so that you can start coming up. We have microphones at either end of the rows and the columns here. We're going to try giving everybody 3 minutes. That does not mean you have to use all 3 minutes, and in fact, some of the best points are made with brevity. But we'd ask you to use a maximum of 3 minutes to make your comments, and we have the county executive and the council member here to listen. I'm going to push this back a little so you can see better, because I feel like you're hiding. Yeah, okay, so that's good. Okay, so I'm going to call these first 4 names, and if you'd come up and start gathering by their microphones. We have Jim Harrell, Alyssa Checkar, Kathy Belcher, and Rachel Myers. And you can speak in whatever order you come down, but please state your name before your comments, if you would.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jim Harley. I'm a member of the library's Board of Trustees, and I've lived in District 7 for 46 years. I'm testifying this evening in support of the library's budget and ask for your support on some of our supplemental requests that will allow the library to better serve our community. I also have another library-related matter that isn't in our budget request. When we were planning to build a new Annapolis library, we needed to find another location to serve some of the needs fulfilled by the old one. As a surprise, we were approached by someone from the management of the Annapolis Mall. It hadn't been in our thoughts, but after deliberation, we decided to give it a try. The mall library has succeeded beyond our hopes. Our lease at the mall is up soon, and the current space is promised to another tenant. But mall management has decided that the library has been very good for them and has offered us a much larger space at a very attractive rate. I urge you to find continuance of the mall library as a permanent location as part of the budget. Another important part of our budget request is for an increase of our materials budget. We would make good use of another $2 million spread over 4 years' time. Our materials budget was severely cut during the recession, and we are trying to get to levels comparable to other nearby library systems. I also ask you to provide funding so we can eliminate fines on children's material. It's a relatively small request, but it removes barriers from children who depend on the library for early literacy, homework help, and more. This doesn't take responsibility from returning books, just takes the pressure off of harried parents whose kids hide books. For poorer people, these fines prevent them from using library services. More than 415 children in District 7 alone can't use library system because their cards are blocked because of overdue fines. Our next request is for allocating funds for increased library outreach services. Specifically, we are requesting money for 4 new Spanish language staff, funding for a mobile outreach vehicle with 2 staff to operate, and a library social worker. My last request is not in the library's budget request, but it is a matter that I've been recently made aware of. In our facilities master plan, the Deal Library has been slated for replacement with detailed planning starting 4 years from now. Land next to the current library has been proposed for a 20-home subdivision, but the owner is willing to consider selling it to the county. This would be a great place for a combined library and community center with extra land used as park or recreation fields. Purchasing in the near future would keep that land available for the time when the Deal Library needs to expand. Several libraries like Deal were built about 50 years ago, and all are in need of upgrades and replacement. Thank you for your time and consideration of these requests.
Good evening, Mr. County Executive and Councilmember Hare. My name is Alyssa Chekai, and I'm the proud interim branch manager of the Deal Community Library. I'm also a resident of District 6. I'm testifying this evening in support of the library's budget, as well as to share with you the tremendous impact libraries have in our community. The Deal, Edgewater, and Crofton libraries are in District 7. These important community resources serve 91,645 residents. We provide education, enrichment, and inspiration to all who walk through our doors or use our online resources. In fact, last year, these 3 libraries had more than 413,600 visitors, and our customers checked out more than 729,000 books, CDs, and DVDs. But we aren't just about books. The computer and skills training resources we offer are life-changing. In 2018, customers in the district used our computers more than 83,500 times in a variety of different ways. For example, recently library staff worked with a number of South County residents on their applications for the new Royal Farms location. We have a customer who comes in almost every day to learn to speak Polish using Rosetta Stone to help her career and to share her heritage with her children. Staff worked with another customer whose son had passed away to answer her questions about how to upload photos of him to Facebook and use that platform to connect with other family members. Thanks to the Library Foundation, we're proud to offer Wi-Fi hotspots for checkout. These devices allow families without high-speed internet access the tools they need to succeed in an increasingly digital world. And this is especially important in the South County area, where without these hotspots, spotty internet connections can mean that it's difficult for residents to connect with online resources. Our libraries are wonderful places for residents to meet and make connections with each other or to learn about new topics. Just yesterday, a customer at the Edgewater Library who had been using the conference room in recent weeks to study for a test came back to tell us that she had passed her nurse practitioner exam and to thank us for our role in that success. We provide countless educational workshops for people of all ages. Last year, more than 41,500 people in the district attended a library program on topics like estate planning, diabetes prevention, sustainable agriculture, and Every Child Ready to Read programs that help prepare our young children for school. A number of our branches also have specialty programs. For instance, Crofton offers 3D printing and a vibrant teen space. And in Edgewater, residents can get help identifying grant funding opportunities for themselves or their nonprofits. The Edgewater and Deal libraries also offer Pause to Read programs that help beginning readers build their confidence, and Babies at Play events that help caregivers connect and find community. I encourage everyone to visit our website at www.aacpl.net for more information about these and other amazing resources that are available at your local library. We welcome you to any of our 16 branches around the county, including the libraries in Deal, Edgewater, and Crofton. And finally, let me thank County Executive and Council Member Hare for your efforts to make the county the best place. Along with our community partners, the library is committed to helping build a welcoming, resilient community where we can all realize life to its fullest potential. Thank you.
If you want to. I'm talking.
Hello, Chris Trombauer, County Executive Pittman, and Jessica Hare. I'm Kathy Belcher, and I'm also representing the library. I'm a huge library goer. I love CDs, DVDs, reference materials, and I find so often I'll go into our library, one of our libraries in Arundel, and what I'm wanting is just not available. And so I learned about an interlibrary loan system called Marina. And that connects all the public libraries in Maryland that I can get materials from. Unfortunately, the fine print with that is you cannot get DVDs and CDs through Marina. They just will not let you borrow them. And also with reference materials, if it's a new publication, you cannot get it. You cannot put your name even on the waiting list. And so you have to wait for it to be an old publication before you can even request it. And so what I have had to do to get around this is I have had to go to Prince George's, get a library card, Enoch Pratt in Baltimore, get a library card, Howard County, get a library card, Carroll County, get a library card. And I also made my husband go to 2 different counties with me to get a library card, so if I'm over on the number of materials that I can sign out there, I've got him as a backup. So what I'm saying is it's so frustrating to see these materials available in all these counties, in all these other libraries, in all these counties, and they're not available. They're not even on our inventory here in Anne Arundel. So I'm really hoping that you'll consider increasing our materials budget in this upcoming process. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Good evening. If you permit me to talk about the library one more time. My name is Rachel. Thank you. My name is Rachel Myers, and I'm the branch manager of our new location at Discoveries, which Mr. Harley talked about a moment ago. Previously, I was the manager of the Deal branch for 7 years, and I'm a resident of District 5. I am before you tonight asking the county to fund the library's supplemental budget requests. Anne Arundel County Public Library's total budget, as you saw up there, is only $22.2 million, or about 1.4% of the total county budget. This budget year, we are asking for increases in key areas to support the services and locations that we provide for all county residents. We have submitted budget requests to support our programming and outreach, as well as our marketing of library services. We have asked for support in eliminating fines on children's materials to remove a barrier to service for many in our county. Anne Arundel County Public Library's top priority for budget is for continued funding for my location, Discovery, the library at the mall. Our location has been incredibly successful in the past year, helping over 50,000 people discover the library at a location that seems made just for them. Families discover that there's a place for them to gather and make connections as they navigate a new way of life with small children. Kids discover the skills needed to be ready for school through early literacy story times and our 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program. Bilingual families discover that the library cares for them through bilingual story times and our growing world languages collection. Teens have found a safe space that they can visit while at the mall with their friends. County residents discover a convenient location to pick up their hold materials and return books from any location while at the mall for other errands. Adults discover programs in partnership with mall stores that support their education, enrichment, and inspiration. My staff and I have discovered a renewed excitement for library programming, as well as outreach to a community, a county, and all mall visitors who are learning what Anne Arundel County Public Library can provide to them for free. At Discoveries, our program attendance has grown to be the strongest in the entire library system. We have had visitors from all around the county and strong participation, especially from residents in Edgewater. This community in District 7 is within the top 5 zip codes of Discovery's users. In addition, Westfield Annapolis Mall draws shoppers from all around the state. These shoppers are introduced via the library to the idea that Anne Arundel County truly is the best place. I welcome all of you to Discoveries the next time you come to the mall. Please help us continue this innovative special service at Westfield
Michelle,
Annapolis Mall.
Rachel, your
Okay.
time is up. If you can summarize, please.
Yep, even after our lease ends in December. Please fund Discoveries the Library at the Mall, the 16th new location of Anne Arundel County Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call up our next four. Louise Thomas, Kathleen Gross, Kelly Pascudo, and Chris Smith. If you can approach the microphones, please, and remember to state your name, and remember you have 3 minutes, please.
Hello, thank you for having us in this opportunity. My name is Louise Thomas, and I'm a resident of District 7. I would like to take a moment to support the budget for Recreation and Parks and appreciate what they do for the health and wellness of this county and the opportunities they provide to all the residents. I particularly am here to support the Community Tennis Center in Millersville Park. It will be located within minutes of most of Crofton and accessible to most of us here in District 7. I look forward to the opportunity to play my own tennis in Anne Arundel County and not leave the county to find facilities and spend my money out of county. But more importantly, I look forward to having the opportunity for, as I'm a former 10 and under coach, a high school coach, a college coach, and to have the opportunity for our youth to have proper programming and affordable access to a community center and how we can grow the game is what I look forward to very much. And one more look forward is I'm also very involved with the various partnership groups. Tennis as a sport works with other communities. I serve as the coach of our Special Olympics team, and the tennis world works with the autistic group, the disability group. We're in the Hispanic communities with free programming. A year-round tennis center can do a lot for the county, and I look forward to that moving forward. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. Thank
you. My name is Kathleen Gross. I am the president of the Arundel Volunteer Fire Department, and I'm representing Arundel Volunteer Fire Department Station 7 on Davidson Road and all our fire, emergency, and rescue personnel to request attention to an infrastructure issue that affects our operation. And I'm talking about the 2005 Water Sewer Master Plan. We waited at our station 51 years to be included in the master plan, and nearly 14 years later, it still has not been implemented. The Crofton, Gambles, Davison, First Due area for the Arundel Volunteer Fire Department consists of 29 box geographical areas that we respond to as First Due. There is no hydrant access in 14 of those areas, and there is only one hydrant in 3 other of those areas. Non-hydrant areas demand the dispatch of tankers in the event of fire. All these areas are south on 424 and east on 450 from stations Staples Corners, and tankers require round trips for hydrant water. The closest hydrants to our station are at Staples Corners. And the SHA gave me an estimate of their last count. There are more than 30,000 vehicles traveling north and south through that intersection daily, and 24,000 traveling east and west. And a major incident requiring sequential filling of tankers will require shutting down that intersection, according to our chief. In the winter of 2014, those hydrants were frozen, and we had to fill our tankers, and that's not the only incident, but then we had to fill our tankers at the middle school, but we cannot use the middle school when the school is in session. We have also had incidents of health incidents that affect us because of no county water. We've had coliform contamination at Station 7 that have necessitated shutting off the well and cutting off water supply. They have to deploy portable tankers and portable sinks for us. We had an incident in 2013 that shut us down for 3 weeks, and the well pump went up in 2015, and the bladder went, and right now we have a very large purification system because we cannot use the water that we get from our existing well without it being purified. In the community that we serve in this first due coverage area, there are new commercial and residential projects still projected for these non-hydrant areas, as well as the hydrant areas we're responsible for. And our emergency personnel respond to an average of 4,000 calls for service every year. And these numbers are going to continue to rise as that population increases.
Kathleen, your time is up. Can you summarize?
Yes. I can summarize by saying we think right now we have a very timely request because in 2015 it was estimated it would cost $1.5 million to run water to the station, but since they built the 7-Eleven is going in on the corner with the multi-pump gas station, that price has gone down to a little under $900,000. So we are, and it's within a stone throw of our firehouse. We can see the connection, so we are hoping that the implementation of the master plan will be a budget priority for 2019.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have Kelly or Chris? Yep, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kelly Pisciuto, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the Creative and Performing Arts Center of South County, a nonprofit that offers arts programs for all ages, everything from kids drama to adult ballet for beginners. I have been on the board for nearly 5 years and currently serve as the board secretary. Tonight, I would like to encourage you to do 2 things. First, to encourage and offer more community grants for nonprofits. We currently are using grants from the Arundel Arts Council, which we are incredibly grateful for, but we could offer so much more with more grant money. These grants have allowed for partnerships with other organizations like London Town Gardens and the Captain Avery Museum. The second thing I would like to encourage you to do is to offer subsidized rent to nonprofits in the county. 5 years ago, we began holding our meetings in the Edgewater Panera to begin finding a location for the Arts Center. This took a bit of time, more than we even anticipated. 3 years ago, we were finally able to afford a current location. Maybe not the ideal, but it works. It's near the Kmart in Edgewater. Since then, we have had to raise funds to meet all the current fire codes, including updating the sprinklers. And now we are working with property management to find a reasonable rent we can maintain paying. All of this we have been doing while trying to develop programs that offer education and exposure to the arts for everything from dance to music to drama and to art. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Smith. I'm here representing a volunteer organization in South County called SoCo Connect. For a year, my co-chair and I have been working to bring public transportation to South County, which until July 1st of last year was non-existent. In looking at the people who might need public transportation. I came across data that showed that Anne Arundel County, out of all of the jurisdictions in Maryland, has the third worst rate of failure to appear at trial in district criminal court cases. We're worse than Baltimore City, which has twice as many cases filed per month. We're worse than Prince George's County, Baltimore County, Baltimore City. Anyway, the point is, in all of the elements of the justice system in the county, we've talked to all of them, they're constantly failures to appear for appointments, failures to appear for substance use treatment appointments. Why? My first thought was that it was transportation, because there was none in South County. But now I think there are some other things that we can do as well. First, I want to keep the money coming for public transportation in southern Anne Arundel County. The current bus service is not necessarily the right answer, and it's going to evolve. Rural, semi-rural areas do not normally use a fixed bus with a schedule and stations. Second, though, we could have pretrial services in this county. That's what Baltimore City has. St. Mary's County has it. Baltimore City's failure to appear rate is 5.8% for 2,200 cases per month in district criminal court cases. Our rate is 30%. That's a huge difference. That is unproductive time. The third leg of the stool is that we should bring services to South County. I was thinking of a pop-up location where parole and probation could plug in their laptops on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Why not do that? In talking to Mr. Berge tonight, he suggested we could do some sort of telecommuting for people who need to interact with these offices, even the public defender's office. So those
that's your 3
you're going to do
Chris.
it to me, aren't you?
I'm sorry.
Okay, no,
I'm the
that's
bad
right.
guy.
That's
The bad
what
guy
I
is
wanted
not
to
the
say.
county exec.
I want to gather the data, keep things going, add programs that reduce this appalling figure. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 4 more to call up. Ron Wolf, Jim Day, Mike Shea, and Richard Worth. Remember, you have 3 minutes, and please state your name before your comment.
My name is Ron Wolf. I applaud the councilwoman and county executive for being here and putting this program together, giving us the opportunity we had. We now have to bring our needs to your attention. 20 years ago, I was chairman of the Deal Shadyside Small Area Plan Committee. We had the best turnout of any one of the 16 small area planning committees for the events that we had, up to 150 people at a time. And we were very disappointed after 2 years of work when a lot of what we did failed to get accomplished. The 2 major, and I'm speaking about Deal right now, the 2 major development projects that would have involved an outlay of money, substantial money from the county. One was the construction of the circle or the roundabout at 258 and 256 in Deal, and that got accomplished. It has saved untold number of broken bones, destroyed cars, and indeed lives by comparison with what the situation was. in the year 2000. The second item is one that never did get accomplished. And I want to read just very quickly what that was. One element of change that the committee wanted to act in the Deal Village Center was the provision of facilities that would serve to attract a larger and more active community presence there. Excuse me. The plan, therefore, suggests a number of ways to accomplish this, and I'm going to just pull them together. Creation of a new public park north of the library, restoration of the existing barn, which now has lost its siding, to accommodate concerts, gatherings, conferences, and other community events, construction of a community center on the northeast corner of that property, siting of the community center so that it forms a unified community complex with the existing library and a new park facility. I would love to see that finally come together. I've never seen a town that I've lived in where we had 5,000 or 6,000 people and we had no community park. The property actually that I'm looking at has no trees on it, and
Your 3 minutes, Ron. I know it goes fast.
It goes fast. There are 20 homes scheduled to be put on that property from in the upper 500s. I would much rather see that become a community park. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Day. I live in Galesville. I'm a member of the board of the West River Improvement Association. Just want to make you aware of the old firehouse in Galesville. You know we're getting a new firehouse. The old one belongs to the volunteer fire department. It's been part of the town since 1924. What they want to do is sell it to buy equipment on the private market. It's been a part of the town. It's in the heart of the, right next to the hall and the post office. We'd like to find a way to keep that part of the community, keep it public. We have a lot of different ideas about what to do with it, so I'm just kind of putting this out to you now that we want to find a way to purchase that so that it doesn't become private. Once it becomes private, it's gone to the community forever. It's been part of the community since 1923, and we'd like help keeping it that way. That's all.
Thank you.
We live in a wonderful place that has a chance to be a great place for generations if we follow citizen planning and not lose the center of our town to more unplanned growth. This is my copy of the Deal Shadyside Small Area Plan. And that small area plan is the gold standard for our future, done by our citizens, for our citizens, that specifically points to the open space north of the library, for our community property, for our town square, and possible future community center. Right now, this property is in the balance. It's either going to be a town square or 20 homes that are now permitted to be built on that site. It's in the balance. This is our last chance. Tonight we have the citizens before us that wrote the plan. Ron, who headed the plan. The citizens that created the largest turnout and participation in forming the plan than any other district. This is the last chance. It does not get more in the balance. What is different than 18 years ago, we have a county executive that ran on the importance of this small area plan. This area designated next to the library is envisioned in the plan to be the hub for our citizen and visitor alike, to share a quality of life. support our local independent businesses, all within walking distance of the water, restaurants, library, hotel, post office, tennis courts, office supply, antique stores, marinas, hardware, rental center, child care, and fire department, and farmers market for starters. Some of those great businesses are here tonight. We could call it Welland's Public Square, or a square peg in a round hole if the wrong thing happens. Thank you.
We've heard a couple of...
Mike, the councilwoman has a comment for you.
It was? Okay. Maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't, but we've heard a couple of people testify on this piece. Does anyone know, I believe we heard that the property would be for sale. Does anyone know the price?
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to actually speak of the price. I think I will share with you the property owner would like to make this happen and is willing to work with the county. And I think that's where we are right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard?
Richard Worth. I'm a resident of District 7 and a survivor of the now 20-year-old small area plan. I'm going to keep this brief. I have a twofer. I want to speak in absolute support of what you heard from the library proponents. A well-supported library system is certainly one of the underpinnings of a civilized society, and that we now have 20 years after the first vision of the small area plan, which would have included, of course, the library's presence on the land that is next to it. 20 years later, we still have the opportunity to make the vision that was in that small area plan a reality. This is remarkable, probably something that most planners never see. So please do not let this opportunity slip away.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to call up our next four. Please come up. Randy Willem, looks like. Mike Lofton, Matt Minahan, and Jackie Cleary. Remember, 3 minutes, and please state your name before your testimony. Sure.
Randy Williams.
Sorry.
And thank you for having this hearing. So I also want to support the town hall in Deal. As a citizen of Shadyside who loves to go to Deal and go get my car worked on, go to the library, and walk the scary road all the way down to the Chesapeake Fitness Center, I would love to have a park and walking sidewalks to be able to enjoy that stroll and not feel like I was going to be run over. The other issue with why this is so important, the small area plan, as a registered nurse, I know, and I firsthand, I'm a crisis counselor volunteer down in Calvert, and dealing with our current issue with opioids. So Tracy's Landing has one of the highest rates, as we know, in Anne Arundel County of opioid deaths and crisis, and we have one of the highest rates in the country, if not the highest right now. So if we can find an opportunity for our children and our families and our citizens to have another outdoors activity, to get together, to have music, to be able to participate in family activities, this really could be a preventive measure to help us stop some of these issues that we have in South County with the opioid crisis. So for that reason, I'd like to see a town square. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jackie Cleary. I live in Deal. I, too, am here to support the acquisition by the county of the land to the north of the library. I think the county has a real opportunity here before the 20 homes get built, as they've been proposed, to get that land and preserve the open space, or perhaps preserve it as an opportunity for the library to expand eventually. But once the land gets developed, it's gone to us for good. So now's the time. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Mike Lofton. I'm a 47-year Can anybody top that one? Resident of District 7? Probably some can, but it's a long time. I want to jump into the weeds a little bit. I want to talk about the revenue side, which, so I'm going to ask you to spend some money, but I want to talk about revenue first. And I've heard the statements, Mr. Pittman, that you are open to revenue-raising activities, and I would urge you to look at the income tax before the property tax. I think property taxes are a colonial relic of wealth, and that the income tax, while Maryland's needs to be much more progressive than it is, it's certainly a better place to go for revenue than the property tax. But before you would do either of those, I think there's some real inequities in our, particularly in the property tax side. I've been involved in the water access movement for about 15 years now, and I was stunned to learn that many of the waterfront communities, they own their beaches, their boat ramps, and the like in community associations. That property is tax exempt. They pay no property tax on these, and I can give you examples on every major river. It's a crazy thing that the thing that adds the most wealth is the waterfront property, and the county's not taxing it. So I would definitely urge you to look at that. The other is a trend, and I don't think it's widespread yet, but a lot of residential property now is being titled in limited liability partnerships and LLCs. And it seems innocuous, but what happens is when that property changes hands, the property doesn't change hands, the LLC changes. So there's no transfer tax on it, there's no step up in basis because of the sale. It's a gimmick that's for the well-heeled who have the lawyers and accountants that construct these kinds of maneuvers. And all it does is transfer the burden to the rest of us that, you know, when you send us the bill, we pay the bill, and we don't have somebody doing that sort of thing. So I would urge you to look at those, and perhaps we can do some revenue raising without raising rates. But again, I prefer the income tax much over the property. My other issue is water access. I know that you spoke at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, I guess that was a debate, and indicated your support for water access. I urge you to continue that. If you'll read the last two, Land, Parks, Preservation, and Recreation, affectionately known as the LIPR, water access is the #1 recreation deficit in this county. And in this day and age, when we have so much public waterfront property, when everybody is paying flush fees, stormwater fees to improve the water quality, and yet 80% of your constituents don't live in water-privileged communities. It's time to right that wrong, and it is a definite wrong, and it'll build the future population that will support multi-generation restoration of the Chesapeake Bay, and that's really what we're facing. So, good work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Matt Minahan. I'm representing the neighbors of the Mayo Peninsula. First of all, thanks to the county for hosting this and listening, which we know you're committed to and appreciate this. I just want to agree with one thing Mr. Lofton said about a more progressive tax structure. Property tax, income tax, I'm not going to comment on, but more progressivity, I would agree with that. I'm going to disagree with him on a couple of points, but I want to mention 4 things. The staffing and size of county government. I want to talk about funding of parks. I want to talk about roads and schools. The county government has shrunk so much that most of the inherently governmental functions have been delegated to the private sector. Holding community meetings is not done by the county, it's done by developers. Minuting those meetings is done by developers. There's no inspections that are done without complaints. Violations of the inspections only happen after many, many, many complaints are filed, because the county staff has been shrunk way too far. And my proposal to fund this is increasing the impact fees and increasing the fees for developers. Best I can tell, our fees are lower than most, and certainly counties of our size. So fund, please, more positions in county government. Second of all, there has been talk about funding, future funding for parks. Those plans have been made against plans that have no legitimacy. Local people weren't involved in those conversations. Where they were ignored and excluded. And so the very input of the citizens most affected has been ignored. I don't think anybody on the Mayo Peninsula would want to limit access to the parks. What we would like to see is a process that includes us in the conversation. I'll say one other thing here. It makes no sense for the county to build boat ramps anywhere. There are more boat ramps in this county than anywhere else in the state. And every one of these private boat ramps at these marinas would be glad to engage in a public-private partnership with the county so that the county doesn't have to go dredge and maintain and do the bad job that it's already done at Carr's Wharf and other places that the county owns. So I would encourage you to consider that. On roads, we've had 4 accidents in February this month, and the month's not over yet, that have closed our one road of access for at least an hour, and there have been 2 power outages due to traffic accidents on 214. We're looking forward to the corridor study, but I would hope that you would...
That's your 3 minutes, Matt.
And last, I would say, we're not doing enough on education, please. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to get 4 more names up here. Rob Anderson and Susan Giacinto. Starts with a J. Susan J. And Ricardo Autern, and then Vadim Liborski. So you can make your way down. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Great. I'm Rob Anderson. I live in Shadyside, Maryland. 2 years ago, my family moved to Shadyside after reading the small area plan that was developed. Personally, I work as an architect for an architectural design company that focuses in community-specific projects. Some of the stuff that we've been affiliated with includes the 9/11 Museum in New York in the past 10 years. Oops, sorry. Too tall. In the African American History and Culture Museum for Smithsonian on the National Mall, as well as many other public libraries. And I would just like to thank everybody for speaking on behalf of the Deal Project. That is an amazing site, and it can better serve the community for community purposes. Thank you.
Good evening, Vadim Liborski. First, a big congratulations to both the county executive and the councilwoman on your new appointments. And we're looking forward to engagement, I think, all across the county. I'd like to, my testimony will be on the park and rec budget specific to the Mayo Peninsula. My testimony will be short. But I would just like to address the county executive's comment about being frugal, because it would seem to me that rather than putting millions of dollars into these parks, there's so many other improvements that can be made, probably across the county, but certainly on the Mayo Peninsula, that would improve the quality of life. The infrastructure, I think Mr. Miniman made a comment about the number of accidents that we've had already this year. Last year, we had, a number of deaths, at least one death that I know of on 214. And the infrastructure, the roads, it could all be upgraded. The schools, the aquifer, which is under a lot of pressure as well. To me, it would seem that these are all investments that we want to make before we invested millions and millions and millions of dollars into these parks. And a lot of the conversations around Beverly Triton, but Mayo Park, which is another park on that same little, in that same area, is a smaller road, harder to access, and people run on that road, they walk on that road, they ride bikes on that road, or children play on that road. And Mr. Lofton's comment about water access, I think water access is a great idea, and I am fully in support of it until we do it at the risk that it would pose without thinking about some of the other changes that need to be made first. And it's great in theory until someone gets hit. on one of these roads until a child gets hit riding a bike. I would just encourage you to think about whether that is an investment that should take precedence over some of the other investments that should be made in the Mayo Peninsula. And just take that into consideration. So thank you for your time.
My name is Richard Otten. I apologize for my awful handwriting. Anyway, and thanks for your time for this event. My comments will be brief. I teach part-time at Arundel Community College, and at the community college we have essentially the same problems that the county executive listed for the public schools as far as full-time faculty never received step increases during the recession, hasn't been fixed, and other issues, including over-reliance upon part-time faculty. There are many people like me who effectively work full-time, get paid a part-time rate per course we teach. And we'd like full-time positions, but they haven't been available. The administration is, at the community college is promising to hire more full-time faculty and offer a cost of living, at least raises in the next budget. And we'll be requesting probably a slight increase in money from the county. And so I ask you that you please do fulfill on that, because the budgets tend to be made on the backs of payroll and specifically instruction, and so yeah, it's I do not look forward to receiving another email saying we asked for this raise, but the county didn't only came through with this figure, so no raise or a smaller raise than what told or asked for. It tends to come down to the county budget, unfortunately. So asking please fulfill that request when it comes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Giacinto, and I'm in District 7. And it's kind of awkward tonight because it seems like the people in Deal and Shadyside would like a park, and the people in Mayo don't. So anyway, I would like the county council to make sure they address what are our urgent needs in the budget here coming on. A lot of our roads are not our state roads, our county roads in our neighborhoods are crumbling. They're literally crumbling in the low-lying areas. We are becoming inundated with water. And so I think we go out and we throw the asphalt in this time of year. The asphalt just gets washed away in 3 weeks. The asphalt in itself, where it's washing to, I assume, are our small streams. We've done this on a lot of roads that I travel on almost every day this entire winter. These roads need to be addressed. It needs to be repaved. We need to look at also upcoming stormwater management. We are experiencing sea level rise. We are experiencing an amazing amount of rain, and we don't know that that is going to go away this year. We don't know what climate change is going to do. So I think definitely in our low-lying areas, we need to be looking and perhaps funding money for how we're going to protect those areas in the future. But in the short term, and oh, let me just say, education funding, pre-K literacy, those things are hugely important to me. Of course, our emergency responders, but we have to look at preserving our existing investment in housing and all before we should be, again, throwing away, maybe not throwing it away, but investing $1 million in breakwaters for beaches that are naturally eroding, for parks that have not been built yet, especially in an area where they're not as welcome as they want one in Deal. So maybe we should transfer the money there.
Okay, we have 3 more names to call, and then after that, we'll allow folks who didn't sign up, if you've been moved to come comment, you will be welcome. So let's have Celestine Brown and Matt O'Connor, and then Heather Lynch. And remember, please state your name, and I'll be timing you for 3 minutes.
Hello.
I just want to thank you, first of all, for having this meeting, because most of the time we don't have anyone that even listens to us. I'm going to try to be very brief.
Ma'am, can you say your name?
I'm sorry, Celestine Brown, yes. And I live in District 7, and I've lived there since 1986. I live on Branchview Court, which is kind of connected to where Sands Road is. I don't know if you're familiar with the dump truck traffic that's down there. And I think I might have mentioned, Ms. Hare, to maybe your assistant or something about this problem we're having. Terrible degradation of roads, just like the other lady said. These trucks mainly come on Patuxent River Road, but then when it's a lot of rain and moisture that comes in, they go on these restricted roads, which is Harwood Road, Wason Road, and Queen Anne Bridge Road. And like she said, we have so much degradation in the roads, it's terrible. 3 weeks ago, a truck, I was eyewitness to this, a truck was going on the restricted road, which they have signs posted and everything, to say a certain amount of tonnage should not be on the road. He was going so fast that he went over on the ditch on the right, and then he overcompensated and went over on the ditch on the left side and turned over. So, the weather's going to be getting better soon. There's going to be kids out. Plus, the cars can't even take these roads. Like she said, they have patches that they patch overnight, but because we've had a lot of rain, they keep just having big potholes. It's terrible. I've been working with the Southern District Police Department, Corporal Miranda, and he's been giving me feedback on what they're trying to do and everything. And I've also called on Mr. Cherry in the Engineering Infrastructure Office. And he's the one who told me that they patch them, and he says, really, we can't do anything. They're supposed to resurface it in the spring and all that. But this is dangerous. And these trucks are barreling down there so fast, over the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Sands Road, and this total increasement of these trucks coming all the time. Someone needs to look in this, and we need to have some kind of funding to help us in this, because everybody in that area, in the southern county there, are hurting. And I'm just waiting for a terrible accident to happen where someone's going to get killed because these trucks are barreling down there. And I know that Mr. Cheney had a lot of these, reclamation or facilities, and from what I was told from Corporal Miranda, he said that a lot of this is being bought over by private facilities, and so you have a lot of individual truckers now driving these trucks through. So who do you talk to? I don't know.
That's your 3 minutes.
Okay, but anyway, something needs to be done about this because it's a dangerous situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matt O'Connor. I live in District 6, and this is the first time I've ever been to a town hall. I thank you for having a town hall this often. So first I want to start off with, I am an educator. I am a young educator that I moved into this county because I love this county. And this county has given me a lot of fun, a lot of people I've met, a lot of communities that I've had connections with. But I do not educate in this county. And one of the reasons is not only is it really underfunded on its education budget, but it also has to do with the way teachers are respected in this county too. So I just really want to encourage you with this new opportunity of getting this education budget through to really do that. As an educator, I would love to teach in this county, teach with my community, and that's something that I really look forward to. I also want to say I recreate often in District 7, and I hope that it becomes a beautiful place. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Heather Lynch. I am a Deal resident, and I am the president of the Parker Creek Coalition. Over the past 15 years, I or a member of my community have attended virtually every public meeting in Deal or the surrounding area regarding development, the water, dredging, et cetera. And there have been two consistent issues that are brought up at every meeting. One is the community center. As you noted, Stuart, we do feel like we're underserved in South County, but at every single meeting, Folks are imploring developers and the government to please bring in a recreation area next to the Deal Library or a community center, hopefully. And, Deal's a small place, word gets around, and it does sound like this is an amazing opportunity for the county to provide an important service at a very reasonable price. So I implore you to please look into that. The other issue is stormwater management, which is not unique to South County. It's impacting the entire county. I have presented to people at Planning and Zoning and Inspections and Permits numerous times, including last night. We've met with them. They've tried to help us to the extent that they're able to, but frankly, the county does not offer any subject matter expertise in this area. We just don't have the engineers to deal with the problem. And so I implore you to allocate funds to obtain that subject matter expertise, to not only help identify existing issues and how to deal with them, but also to do a nationwide search to identify best management practices and improve our best management practices in the county to identify sustainable stormwater management practices for future development. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more name that signed up, and then after that, if folks want to come and do public comment, you're welcome. But let's give Ashley Hangliter you get your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am Ashley Hangliter, and I'd like to thank you both for having this town hall meeting. It's been really interesting to me to hear what other people were concerned with. Last June, we set out to have our second annual Smoking on the Creek barbecue competition with Project Deal in mind. We said whatever we raised out of the barbecue competition, we were going to keep the money in Deal. What do we want to do with it? And we asked everyone. We had 1,700 people at that event, and the overwhelming response was that Deal needs a park. Deal needs a recreation area. I am the direct neighbor of the said property that everyone's speaking of north of the Deal Library, and I will speak for myself and I believe the responses from our survey to say that we would love to see an area for our children to ride bikes, for ourselves to have some room to run a bit and just have a playground instead of driving to Calvert County every time we need one. So we raised $16,000 last year. While that obviously does not pay for a park, it is a little drop in the bucket, and it's our community's support of that project. So thank you very much for your time, and we hope you guys can help make our dreams come true there. Thank
you. When is the barbecue this year? Do you have a date for the barbecue yet?
It is June 15th this year.
Noted.
And hopefully we can continue to raise funds for our park.
At this time, if anyone else wants to come down and get 3 minutes for public comment, find a microphone on either aisle. Just remember to state your name.
Good evening, Russell Leone. I'm an elementary teacher and president of Teachers Association. The story you heard about the gentleman who lives in county but teaches otherwise is actually not unique. So I'm encouraging you, I know we've had many conversations. The education budget is vital to us. We're at a point where our kids need it. They need quality teachers who are invested in the communities. And I want to remind everyone that those dollar amounts, and I know it was a big chunk in the education budget, but they represent people that are going to raise our kids and educate them to be great citizens of our community. And so I implore you to support all those positions that have been put in because we need the mental health services, the school counselors, the psychologist, and this is the time. And we really do not want to lose more teachers to other counties, which we have been doing at alarming rates. So thank you very much for your support.
Hello, Stuart. Sonny Yateman, International Union of Elevator Constructors, Anne Arundel County Cope. Really surprised tonight that more issues haven't been coming up about how to fund teachers, police, fire, and the correctional workers, because those are issues that touch every citizen in this county. I live at 5872 Swamp Circle Road, and I can stumble to where they went to park. I think it's a great idea. And as a matter of fact, I think everybody's idea is very great because they all have nerve enough to come and tell you that. But I don't know if it's more important to be able to fund the teachers and the fire and the police, because right now, when coming from another county, all of my children graduated from here. The one great thing is, and I tease them about it all the time, is that you all come home from college, get into a profession, and you never leave the town that you grew up in. But there's a mass exodus now. My middle daughter is a special needs teacher. MacArthur Middle. Daddy, I can't do it anymore because I can't afford it. There's no reason for an individual who's carrying a full-time job to have to go and take a part-time job to make it in this county. That's absolutely ludicrous. And somewhere along the line, we have to find the funding to not only pay the 51.5% or whatever that ends up being, plus the 90 million more. We have to gradually increase that so that this mass exodus stops. Because we are providing teachers. I coach in Prince George County, 33 years now. Teachers at Frederick Douglass High School, come from Anne Arundel County. So we are investing in our children, we're investing in a school, we're investing in their college, and we're not reaping the rewards. I don't understand the logic behind that. Now I'm going to speak for me, 5872 Swamp Circle Road, not for all these great people here. But if you could find a way that if you're going to increase my taxes, I don't give a shit which one you increase, whether it's property, it's left pocket, right pocket, same pair of pants. But you can direct that to these issues of benefits and wages. I'm all for that. You got my support.
My name is Douglas Tom. I moved here to District 7. We live in Tracy's Landing. Deal is our town. My wife and I moved here about 10 years from Fairfax. And we didn't know our neighbors in Fairfax. But here we do. We know all our neighbors. I know the people who run the businesses in town. It's a lovely place, but it doesn't have a heart. It needs a center. It needs something where people can come for Memorial Day. And that's what it really is lacking everything. It has everything, but it doesn't have a center.
My name is John Baker. I live in Davidsonville, District 7 resident. I'm actually here in support of water access, but I do want to make one point first. We've heard a lot of people up here talking about a park. Everyone wants a park, right? Except for maybe a couple of areas. But the point is, in Mayo, there are parks. They do exist. They're just not reasonably usable. So what if you were in Deal and you got a new park, and then you couldn't really make use of it, right? That's what we essentially have, in my opinion. That's essentially what we have in Mayo. We have these county properties that exist. Mayo, I drive down there and I feel like I'm breaking the law just by driving down the road. It's open only a handful of days of the year to the public. That's ridiculous. With respect to Beverly Triton, the parking is inadequate. Half the time I go down there, I don't know if the gate's going to be locked or unlocked. There's no really usable bathroom down there. The trails are a mess. Let's put our money where our mouth is and actually make these parks usable. Otherwise, there were some concerns about revenue. I also am in favor of I don't really care what pocket it comes out of. That's fine. But this is county-owned property. If it's really just going to exist to be a buffer for local residents, why do we even have it? So, let's maybe look at one of those parks as a revenue stream. I know that's not popular. I wouldn't prefer that to be an option. I'd prefer that these parks actually be made usable. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is George Donahue. I live in District 7. I'm president of the Cape Ann Citizens Association, and I'm a professor of systems engineering and operations research at George Mason University. I had really not thought about talking tonight, but having listened to many of the people discuss things, I thought I would just add my voice to an observation that I think our budget for infrastructure, both in transportation and in stormwater management, is probably fairly inadequate for the problems we have, especially in South County, which is the constituency that I represent. Stormwater management is a real problem for our community, and we need to get some better county attention on how we're going to deal with an issue that's not going to go away. It's going to be getting worse. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mark Humphreys. I live in Saunders Point. I may be referred to as one of the obstructionists that some people refer us to. I'd like to thank you for coming out this evening. I'd also like to thank everybody else that is here this evening for taking the time out of their busy schedule to come and actually voice their concerns about what's going on in the community. I had not intended to speak this evening, but one thing that I would suggest is to listen to the people that are here and take their suggestions and actually work with them rather than a small group of people that do not live here and have other interests in mind. With that said, I'll echo what some other people have added with the infrastructure issues that we have in the county, especially coming down Central Avenue. I don't think that it's prudent or dutiful to expand a park when the infrastructure on the peninsula is not adequate to maintain any kind of increased traffic or additional water usage. That's all I have. Thank you again.
Okay, we'll do last call for public comment.
Hi, good evening. Thank you all for having these town hall meetings. We really appreciate it. I'm Michelle Danoff. I'm with Neighbors in the Mayo Peninsula. Mayo is open. The parks are open, and they're fabulous as they are. However, I'd like to talk about budgets. If I have a house that has all sorts of failing infrastructure, I'm not going to go build an in-ground pool. That's kind of what's being asked for. Mayo has roads that are inadequate, they're crumbling. We have water issues. The elementary school has inadequate water for students. So why are we asking for a bathhouse at a park before they are? We have inadequate pay for teachers. So why are we going to put money into a park that is open? The gates are open. They open in the morning and they close at 5 in the evening. Come on down every day. I just want to say, I have listened to many, many people around the county about stormwater and infrastructure, and it just keeps coming up over and over and over and over. We need to fix our needs first. The wants are going to have to wait. And what we have really is pretty adequate right now. Come on down and enjoy it.
I'm Robin Turk. I live in this district. Michelle pretty much said some things that I was going to say. Just want you people to be clear that in Mayo there is a situation where the past county executive has decided that $4 million is an appropriate expenditure at Beverly Triton Park. And it feels really uncomfortable to us because we know that Beverly Triton is open sunrise to sunset every day. She's like a woman without makeup. She's beautiful in her natural state. She needs very little improvement. Some improvement we agree on. We agree, Mike. Some improvement, but probably not $4 million. So that's my heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the end of the public comment. And Sharon, I'd ask you if you could, can you put the screen back on with the budget tool, the very last slide? Can you cycle through? And then we'll have some closing remarks from, do you want to speak, Jessica?
Sure.
We'll have the closing remarks from the councilwoman, and then the county executive will wrap us up.
I just want to give a big thank you. Y'all, this has been incredibly helpful. I have pages and pages of notes, and I am very excited for the June 15th Smoking on the Creek. I've already got a calendar invite from my husband in the back there, so it's already in there now. But I really appreciate you all taking the time to come down here and help us out. I have a whole stack of business cards for anyone who wants it. You know how to get me, but if you want to take a card as well, please take it. If you think of anything else after this, a comment you forgot to say, something else that pops into your head, please shoot me a note, give me a call. I try very hard to respond individually to every email that I get. Sometimes it takes a few days, but I do try hard to get to it. So we want to hear from you. We've got a few months before this is going to be finalized, and absolutely thank you for your input.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much because I took a lot of notes, but I do want to say that this is exactly what I was hoping would happen tonight. I feel like, and I know Jessica feels like, we're going to go back and we have a head and a heart full of what this community wants, and they're not new things, but hearing them with the passion that we hear them is really, really important. I just want to say I love libraries. We don't have community centers in Anne Arundel County, and that's one of many reasons why libraries are very, very important. I'm heading down to Deal, and I'm going to be meeting with some folks, including the owner of the land that we've been talking about, and we're going to bring the head of Rec and Parks, and I think we're going to try to schedule it when Jessica can make it as well, and really look hard at that. They told me I wasn't allowed to make promises in one of these. Look hard at, Mayo Peninsula absolutely needs infrastructure, and I've been reading about the accidents this month alone. We know the stormwater situation is getting worse and worse. We know that sea level rise is happening, and we have to make a plan for it. And we know that at the end of the peninsula, Beverly Triton Beach is a beautiful place to go, and we've already gotten them to change the name of it to Beverly Triton Nature Park. I'm thinking, for those of you who know the history, maybe it should be Virginia Claggett Nature Park. But she saved it from development. And I'm glad that we had some teachers here, and community college here, and some, union representatives here, talking about living paycheck to paycheck. It's not right that there are people who work in this county who can't afford to live in this county, and that to me is as important as anything. I ran for this office to help the people who are in the most need, and as well as help everybody. But I'm glad to hear from those folks as well. So on to the next one. We got 6 more to go, and then we'll see you on May 1st. Thank you.